The year is 2010. We left 2009 with a movie called Avatar, and another movie that had airbending.
I will take you to a secret place. Taught to master the energy of the three elements. Air, fire, and water. Shadow Crane Strike is the most basic of all the airbending techniques.
It's a new decade. People can't decide whether we should call it 2010 or 2010. The world's tallest building was renamed to the Burj Khalifa, and I was hitting deep into Dragon Ball media. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm recounting all the major stuff that's happened in Dragon Ball fandom in the 2010s, starting with 2010. So join me on this nostalgic ride. Unless you're a Gen Alpha kid, then this is really just a history lesson. Starting with something in Japan with Dragon Ball Kai on January 10th, 2010, reaching the episode where Frieza transforms into his third transformation. Meanwhile, on January 27th, 2010, Dragon Ball Z Abridged has reached episode 11 of their series and officially started their Namek Saga Abridged.
Well, the doctors say I should be in here for a couple of months. What with the crushed legs, shattered ribs, and the brain damage. And the brain damage. And the brain damage. Oh, hey, Master Roshi, when did you get here?
On the 4th of February 2010, which is my friend's birthday, shout out to Fudge, Dragon Ball Online was made. It was an MMORPG that Toriyama had a great deal of control over, and it showcases events that occurred after the end of Z. And what makes it great was that it was essentially the original Dragon Ball Xenoverse. There were characters like the Time Patroller Trunks, Mira, Toa, Timebreaker Bardock, etc. And if you're wondering why this game wasn't talked about enough, or why you haven't seen gameplay of it, well, it's only because it was only available in Japan and North Korea. I made a typo in the script, I meant South Korea. Kim Jong-il did not have access to Dragon Ball Online, I assure you. February 11th is the release of Dragon Ball Origins 2 in Japan. It would later be released in June for North America and July in Europe. I never really properly played the DS games, but I heard this one was a significant improvement from the first game. On May 24, 2010, Dragon Ball Z Kai finally debuts in America. The English dub recasted some of the original voice actors for some reason, but at least the dubbing is more accurate to the anime, unlike the original dub.
Smooth, but your shoe came untied.
I'm not going to fall for that. I don't even have shoelaces.
I'm not at the beach, this is a bathtub.
However, the West still thought that anime was meant to appeal to a younger demographic, so they released it on Nicktoons, and this came with rephrasing and censoring. On the 30th of September 2010, Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Tag Team, or Dragon Ball Tag Versus in Japan, was released on the PSP. It was pretty much Tenkaichi V on a handheld, except with the optional tag team mode, and it worked really well. It had no business being better than some of the future Dragon Ball Z games we got over the next few years, and the game had some cool what-ifs in there too. Not to mention this was the first game that made use of the DBZ Kai cast as well. Next up in November 2010 was the release of Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2. The big promotion about this game was the re-debut of Hachiyak for Japan, but we in the West officially witnessing him for the very first time. The game came with a remake of the Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans OVA, but this time being called the Plan to Eradicate the Super Saiyans. But the game was pretty underwhelming, and I mean through a visual perspective and even gameplay. Plus it didn't even have a story mode, which I'm sure was a deal breaker for a lot of people. All the way back in June 20th, 2010, a representative from Bandai Namco confirmed that there would have been a GT saga, along with GT characters in it.
Alright, so it's gonna have like characters from the entire spectrum of Dragon Ball, all of this game. Finalize all the details on the main host. I can't go into a whole lot of detail, but I would expect, probably some of the sequels probably going to be in there. Like I said, that character.
So sadly, there was a lot of cut content in this game, but it has Tarble though. Also in November, Japan got the release of Dragon Ball Heroes. Looking back, Dragon Ball was really stacked when it came to games this one year. But just to let you know, the game is very different from the Dragon Ball Heroes we know today. It wasn't linked to Xenoverse, it featured a set of uncustomizable characters, and sometimes they would feature some what-if transformations in there. While that was all happening, Dragon Ball Kai in Japan's last episode of the year was with episode 87. With Mr. Satan stepping into the Cell games, and Dragon Ball Z Kai in the West has reached episode 50, with one of the few battles between Goku and Frieza. Finally, to top it all off in December with Dragon Ball SD. This is an official abridged chibi manga intended for children to read. I've read the fan translations. Sometimes it's fun, but sometimes it's just a simplified retelling. The manga was done by Naho Ueshi, who in the past has done the Yo Son Goku and Friends Return manga, and besides Toriyama, she was the first person to draw and write a Dragon Ball manga, which is a huge feat on its own. And that is it for 2010. If there's anything that I missed out on this year, comment down below. And I'm going to work on 2011, so if you have any suggestions for that, even very obscure things, then please mention it. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like the video, and see ya next time. And oh, happy Goku Day, by the way.